Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's live stream. And it's been a while, so I'm very, very sorry for that. But what we're here today, we're going to be talking about the UK housing market, what's been happening in the last few weeks, the latest indices and sort of news that's been hitting the headlines, and what other people are saying, and all those sort of bits and pieces. And also a great space for you guys to ask any questions. And I have been crap at getting back to comments recently. So if you do leave a comment or message me on Instagram or anything like that, then bear with me. I will get around to doing it. I've been a little bit busy. But again, for all of you that are here, please say hello. We've got Duffy in the comment section as well, and I'll get on to answering your question pretty soon. But yeah, thanks for joining me on a late Sunday evening. Had to do the stream after Charlie finished because, well, no one's going to watch me over Charlie. So yeah. So I thought I'd do it a little bit later than his live stream. So if you are new to this channel, my name's Lee Everett. I've been an estate agent for coming up 21 years now in the North Essex area. And on this channel, I like to go over what I've been experiencing at the front line of the property market in my part of the world. Also, your opportunity to get any questions in and anything like that. So if you can give this stream a thumbs up and subscribe, that'd be absolutely fantastic, because it really helps encourage me to do more of these, as well as get this channel out there to more people, not just first time buyers, but first time home movers, sellers, all that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, if you can like the stream, that'd be fantastic. And yes, let's get into what's been happening in the last week in the news. And the big thing which got a lot of headlines is the Halifax monthly price index, which said that house prices, according to them and their data, have actually gone up. And I've got the report here, which we'll just do a quick screen share. If you haven't had chance to see it, I'll get rid of me. So they are saying that house prices have gone up by 1.3% in the last month, a quarterly change of 2.5%, and an annual change of 2.5%, bringing the average house price of, according to them, by the way, and only according to their figures, of £291,029. Now, what are my thoughts on this if you are interested? So that's the key headlines. First of all, their average monthly house price has gone up by 1.3%. Now, I don't think personally that house prices have gone up in the last month. I don't think they've gone up at all in the last 4 months, which is what they're saying. I just feel that the type of properties that are selling will be ones which more first time buyers or people with a mortgage, for some strange reason, are actually getting agreed. And I'm experiencing that myself. I'm selling a lot, and I mean a lot, of mid-size family homes, 3 and 4 bedroom semi and detached houses at the moment. The larger ones, they're struggling, and the lower end, like your flats, masonettes, smaller houses, they're not getting much interest at all at the moment. But generally, the mid-range sort of houses are doing, in my part of the world, exceptionally well. And if you've got more people buying that sort of price property above the sort of average, that is going to skew a lot of the figures that you're going to see from these house price indices. Now, there is, from what I can see, good news if you are a home seller, good news if you're a buyer as well, because what I'm experiencing, and again, I say this on a lot of my live streams, is that I can only tell you what I'm doing in my area. Every area will be different. They'll have their own micro market and do things differently, have different types of buyers, different price points, and different affordability factors, whether that's mortgages, wages, stuff like that. But yeah, we are finding a lot of first time buyers and second time home movers are able to buy and are willing to buy. And that could be down to the mortgage rates coming down to a more acceptable level. I'm going to say acceptable because, I mean, my generation, I'm 37. I've only really known in my buying age of low interest rates. So my current mortgage is 1.99% at the moment. people looking to remortgage now, where they've got the 1.9 or less. I mean, I haven't got the lowest by no means, and now looking at 4-5% remortgage. It's a whole new world. But current buyers who haven't bought before with a mortgage have seen that the average was 6%, and now that's coming down into the 4%. That might be giving certain type of buyers a bit more confidence in, right, okay, interest rates have come down on average around a third. Let's get ourselves a 2-year fixed rate, which, like I say, I'm not a mortgage advisor, but they're a hell of a lot better than what they were a year ago. And it would have a lot of buyers who may have waited until those rates started to come down before they then lock themselves into a mortgage. And that's what we're finding. First time buyers have been able to save up more deposit and are now being able to get cheaper mortgages. And I think that has fueled that sort of mid-range sort of price bracket, which I'm experiencing as selling, and what the mortgage house price indices are showing in their data. So that's personally what I think, or my thoughts on the Halifax. Now, there's a lot of flaws with the Halifax house price data, and some people will forget about those. I mean, I'm learning stuff all the time by watching things like Moving Home with Charlie and going into a little bit more detail of things that obviously their methodology might be warped in favor of biasness or what have you. But when you do start seeing consistency and the methodology is consistent, then, and they're saying prices are going up, then they're not going to be too far off the mark. I mean, everybody jumped on them when they said house prices were dropping. There was no problem with the house price indices when they were backing up a certain view that they're trying to get across. But when they go against certain views, they then pick faults in them. And the same thing goes with the next report that I'm going to show, which is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, what their surveyors are experiencing on the front line and what their predictions are as well. But before I get into that, I just want to answer Duffy's question. And Duffy, thank you so much for coming back and joining me. Really lovely to see you again. Really love to see you again. So, hi Lee, viewed a 2-bed in Berkshire yesterday, was 375,000, now 290. 106 years on the lease, ground rent is 470, and service charge a whopping £4,000. Worried about the cost of a lease extension. Agent can't give me the costs until the solicitors are instructed. What's my take on this? Right, so whenever a ground rent is so high, and £470 is quite high for ground rent in my experience, some lenders won't even touch it if it's a certain percentage of the property value. So before even looking about a lease extension, if you did require a mortgage, I can't remember if you do or not, then that might be the first stumbling block. The service charge, £4,000, does sound like a lot. I would probably say where I am, the average is between sort of 1,500-1,800. If there's a lift, then it's generally more expensive. If it's an older building with lots of maintenance, then generally that will be more expensive. And sometimes you get apartment blocks that have facilities like gyms, swimming pools, concierge. If you live in a posh area of Berkshire, that might have that elevated more than normal. The owner can 100% get a quote for a lease extension, and they'll probably be given a couple of options. Now, generally the cheaper option for a lease extension is having a higher ground rent, and with the ground rent already at £470 a year, I probably wouldn't want that to be any higher. I mean, you also need to see how often that ground rent goes up, whether it's every 10 years or 30 years, I think some leases say, and by how much. Some of the flats I'm selling at the moment have an uncapped ground rent review period every 30 years, which makes them basically unmortgageable. We've had a couple of that to get deed of variations and new leases and negotiate that, and it's cost them tens and tens of thousands of pounds to go to court with the freeholder to get that changed or a new lease issued. So personally, the lease length is good, but the ground rent does seem high. I mean, it's not going to take too much for that to be coming up to, it's. I think the percentage value of the ground rent to the property value may be too much for a mortgage lender, but I don't know, but that would also have, if you don't need a mortgage now, Duffy, that might affect your resale value. And remember, you can't renew a lease until you've owned the property for 2 years. So any lease renewal quote you get now will be rubbish, because in 2 years' time, it will be more, unless any leasehold reforms come in which cap how much a freeholder can charge you, or caps the cost, whether it gets rid of marriage value, all those bits and pieces as well. So yeah, I'd be very wary of that. It's probably a reason why it's been reduced so much from 375 to 290. Could be the mortgageability of it, and that high service charge. But I mean, getting sort of £80,000 off the price does pay for a few years service charge. Duffy's also seen more generous price reductions for apartments, but not so for houses. Yeah, what we're finding is a lot of the houses which have come on for maybe more than what we have suggested are because sellers either need a certain amount of money, or they're not in a particular rush to sell and will move if they get the figure they want. And need and wants, they're right pain in the backside depending on the owner. But yeah, a lot of people living in their houses, for them to move on to do what they want to do, will need a certain figure to do it, or want a certain figure to be able to actually sell their property. And they're the ones that you will be seeing sitting on the market if there's no immediate rush to sell their property. And that will vary from person to person, but a lot more apartments, when there is, say, service charges to pay, and maybe they're an ex-rental property, because a lot of landlords are getting out of the rental business. Sort of generational landlords who started buying 20, 25 years ago are now approaching the age where they don't want to do it anymore, especially when interest rates in banks, you can get 5-6%, and they may only be earning 6-7-8% renting a property. Why not pull that money out, put it into a bank, and have no hassle, and get just a slightly less return for less hassle. Also, the capital gains rate changes in April this year. So the allowance you can have. So a lot of landlords are trying to get completed by April this year to save money on capital gains. So you're seeing the apartments probably being slashed in prices. So landlords actually save a bit of money, if that makes sense. Reducing the price to save money on tax. I don't know. That's just my take on it. Enjoyed Charles. I was drifting in and out. My wife works nights, so I was sort of having a chat with her whilst listening to his live stream. But yeah, didn't cry. Yeah, got told off. Halifax Index is a work of. It's not fiction. It's not fiction, Duffy. It is based on their figures. However you look at them, that is what they're experiencing with their methodology. Nobody has to pay attention to it. Nobody has to look at it or pay attention to it. But some people do. Some people do. They get a bit more traction when, say, Charlie raises issue with their data and how they do it. Then obviously he gets 5, 6, 7,000 people viewing his videos every time he does a live stream or a video. So they probably will be called out. But the main one to go by is the land registry figures, which we all know are a little bit out of date, 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer, out of date. They're the only real ones. And even then, that's not where you are in the world. Average doesn't help you buy your house in Berkshire or North Essex, like where I am. So just got to do your own research. Hi, Alex. How you doing? Nice to see you, my friend. Nice to see you. Really, really like it. Like to see you. Thanks for coming to join me this evening. Great advice on ground rent issue. Yeah, I mean, there's been so much in the news lately, or the last couple of years, about ground rent being a massive issue when sort of new builds like Taylor Wimpey, I think it may have been, were selling flats, new build flats. They were the freeholders with the ground rent of a certain amount, but the clause in the lease was that the ground rent could double every 10 years, which meant in some cases that the ground rent would have been thousands of pounds in just a few decades, which makes them unsellable. And also they were selling the freehold to another company before offering it to the leaseholders, which is against the rules as well. So there's a lot of bad press about leaseholds, but if you can get one with a low ground rent, the ground rent renewal period is 30 years and there's a cap on how much it can go up. And your service charges aren't too bad as well. There's no reason not to buy a flat if everything else is right. But that's why it costs more to buy a flat with solicitors, because they look for a lot more information, the management pack, and all those sorts of questions. But yeah, they can be good. They can be good. Right. So the next report I wanted to look at was the RICS one, and I'm bringing this one up because because hang on, let's do this. I'll mug to this quickly. The surveyors who filled out this report and gave their opinion, it was almost like gospel. What I really wanted to reply, but because he has a bigger following than me, I got shy. Is he will pick out on, say, Nationwide and Halifax's mortgage figures. It's a very small percentage of the property market, which is absolutely true. Absolutely true. But the RICS report, which he jumped on quite a lot when they were saying down, 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 was an even smaller percentage than Halifax or Nationwide. We're talking hundreds, maybe 300 sometime, estate agents or RIC surveyors filling out these reports, and there are tens of thousands of estate agents. So to use this report and then not point out the bad things on that, I think are lose a bit of credibility. If you're going to badmouth some reports, you've got to do them all. You've got to do them all. But I bit my tongue until now, until now. But I thought he'd do it now, actually, because what he should be doing right now is, let's get rid of me again. Is what am I doing? Is be going into this data and saying that okay. Can you hear me now, Duffy? Let's go back to this one. Hopefully you can hear me now. Hello, son of Odin. Good stuff. You got me. Excellent. Right. So I can't show the report because I think I may have set this up incorrectly that you can't hear my voice when I'm doing this. But the report seems to show that activity in the housing market in terms of transactions or agreed sales is going up. And I can confirm that. So our January this year was so much better than January last year, and February has started fantastically as well. So I'm in agreement with what the RICS survey is saying and what they're experiencing. Remember, these are estate agents on the front line. I wouldn't necessarily say they're generally the biggest of agents, because when you look at their data and how many listings they've got and how many sales they're making, I personally wouldn't class them as huge on average anyway. Estate agents, like my office, I think I worked out last year that we agreed a house sale every other day in 2023. Not all of those went through, obviously, and some of those we may have resold after going wrong. But as a bare figure, we agreed a house sale every other day on average in 2023. And it'd be interesting to see if we get that or beat that this year. But yeah, there seems to be optimism. And what do I think? What do I think? I'm not overly optimistic about the property market this year. I'm being very careful what I say. I don't think prices are going to go up like they're being reported. I mean, that's just the averages going up. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the price is going up, but the average house price is going up. I think that's down to certain types of property selling more than the cheaper end. But I do feel that how this year has started, that 2024 will be a stale year, a flat year, a year in which we get used to a new normal, a new interest rate, a new economy, a new government. Oh God, I've got to go through all that rigmarole of promises and broken promises of a new government. But I think that this year, and I could be wrong, will be just a flatline year where the property market ticks over. But there might be a few dips and spikes over the next 10 months, 11 months. But I generally think that, yeah, we should have a, yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the comments. I didn't scroll down. I think it'll be a flat line. But again, now, as son of Odin says, job market is bad now, and that might have an effect on the housing market. 100%. 100%. But you as a buyer are only interested in your own job. It doesn't matter if 10,000 people lose their jobs to you if it doesn't affect you. And it may do. There may be knock-on effects with Yodel closing or Body Shop and blah, 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 blah. But if you're in an industry, I don't know, tradesman, for example, or tradesperson, trades them, there may be a small knock-on effect for you because people aren't doing certain works, etc. But on the whole, if you're quite confident in your job and you're confident in your industry, then you could buy a house. Now, you can't plan for every eventuality. There will be, even in a great economy, people can lose their jobs and companies can go under. You can't plan for every eventuality, but you also can't plan for if your landlord raises your rent by £300-400 at the end of your contract. You can't plan if that landlord wants to sell. So there's so many things when looking at your own personal situation that you need to consider when whether you should buy a house or rent a house or stay at home. So many different things, and that's why you can't listen to anyone apart from your own gut and heart as to what you should do. Duffy, agree, Lee. There'll be no increases this year. I think 2024 and 25 will be flat. If unemployment increases, we could, 100%. But there would have to be a lot of unemployment, and then that knock-on effect to repossessions for house prices to have any significant. Now, I think repossessions reached 527 recently, or 500 and something. Don't quote me on that figure, but the baseline was so low because banks have been reluctant to repossess. I don't know whether that's government saying have a bit more forbearance on things and stuff like that. But there are more and more repossessions happening. But 527 isn't enough to shift the property market. It won't even make a dent on the indices or the land registry figures. We need to be seeing thousands and thousands and thousands of people losing their homes every month, which I can't quite see happening. I think I said 75% of the mortgage rate increase have now filtered through into the housing market, into home sellers. So if we've had that 75% of people onto higher mortgage rates and we're not seeing a mass amount of properties coming onto the market for low figures, which I'm not experiencing where I am. We had a few, say last year, that went to auction. They tend to be sort of landlords with tenants who weren't paying rent and stuff like that. But there has been an increase in properties going to auction last year, certainly. Haven't seen any yet this year. But until we start seeing loads and loads and loads in their thousands being repossessed and going for a decent figure, as in decent as in cheap, then I can't see it having much of an impact. But I could be wrong. I could be wrong. The job market could completely go. I could be out of a job. Any one of us could be out of a job and be forced to sell. But if it doesn't happen in it's like thousands and thousands, I can't see it doing too much to the property market. Son of Odin used to get 4 to 7 job emails from agents per week. Now I'm getting one per 10 days. Wow. You was popular. You still are popular. I used to get like emails and calls from estate agents trying to poach me every 3 to 6 months on average at my peak. Not so much anymore. Not so much anymore. Duffy, lots of listings now going to modern method of auction, still a small percentage, but defo. What I think that is, and we got approached by a company that offer the modern method auction. It's not that owners are choosing to go down that route. It is another service that estate agents are offering, and doesn't mean you're going to get an auction price, Duffy. It's basically a different way of selling it where the buyer buys an exclusivity period of 56 days to exchange contracts. Doesn't cost the owner anything, which is why owners are quite attracted to it, because they're saving 1-2% on estate agency fees. It gets loaded onto the buyer. And as a buyer, if you're trying to find a bargain, if you've got to pay £6,000 non-refundable, and it's not even a deposit, it's a fee to buy that property on top of the purchase price, on top of any extras that may be added on top of stamp duty and your legal fees, then that's not such a great deal. So the modern method of auction, in my experience, we've got one agent doing it in our town, and they've been approached by a big company who also called my agency to say, look, you can sell your houses like this. You get more money by doing it this way, because basically the buyer pays the fee. You get your cut, we get our cut, and the owner doesn't have to pay anything. So that is, the modern method of auction isn't necessarily an owner going down that route. It's the estate agent trying to earn more commission from doing it that way, which doesn't benefit the seller, doesn't benefit the buyer as well, because all the fees are front loaded onto the buyer rather than the seller. So I too, Duffy, would shun the modern method of auction. Just what's wrong with the normal way? There's a lot of things wrong with the normal way, actually, but more often than not, I know you hear horror stories about estate agents and sellers and whatnot, but let's be honest, it's the minority. A lot of sales go through with hiccups, but aren't too bad. But there you go. One more thing before we start wrapping this up or get into any questions, is there is a guy called Christopher Watkins who's quite well known in the property industry space, and every week he does a report. He does a report, and I'm going to try and share it. I'm going to try and share my screen. Can I do that? Let me know if you can't hear me. Can you still hear me? Hang on. Here we go. All right, okay, you can see this. You can see this. Hopefully you can hear me anyway. And guys, if you haven't liked the stream, if you could just give it a thumbs up, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you can, that would be absolutely great, because we've got 11 people watching, 3 people liked it. That would be great. Right, so can you still hear me? So this report, or this article on property industry, I look at it every day. A lot of it's just advertising certain companies and whatnot, and a lot of waffle. But every week, this guy, Chris Watkins, produces these charts about what's going on in the property market. And the key one for me, which is good for estate agents, where was it? Is this one. Accumulative gross sales year to date, week 5. And you can see 2024 is 99,472. So that's how many sales so far. Look at it compared to last year. We're 10% more than last year. 10% more. And I can 100% agree with that this year has been, let me share the site. Hang on a second. Let me pop that in copy. Can I get that in the live stream here? It's in the chat, guys, if you want that. If you want this in the chat. Um, yeah, let's get me back here. Yeah, so more transactions being agreed, and also it says in that report is that the amount of fall throughs, so sales going wrong, um, has gone down as well. I think we're down to 1 in 5, so 20% of sales go wrong, which I think was high as 1 in 4 were going wrong. We certainly had a few fall throughs last year, um, but yeah, but have a little look at that, because that's up to date market data, up to date. I mean, yes, they're saying listings are going up, but as we come out the new year, we get a lot of separations this time of the year, a lot of families splitting up and properties coming onto the market because of separation, divorce, and what have you. Get a lot of probates this time of year. People passed away before Christmas, don't want to put the house on the market till after Christmas and sell. So we get a lot of things like that. So generally, this time of year in spring is a big time for when people put their house on the market. So listings going up now isn't news to me, really. Although it's an 8-year high according to this, an 8-year high according to that. So yeah, yeah. What else are saying? Net sales up 4.8% on last week. Gross sales up 5.2% on the week before, and the sale fall throughs continue to be at record low. I mean, it doesn't sound at the moment that the property market is too bad. Certainly not as bad as some want to make out. But we are where we are. We are where we are. So I hope you've enjoyed this stream. I hope it's helped answer any questions. If you do have any more, you can email me at lee@leeeverettproperty.co.uk. Find me on Instagram. Forgot my handle, but if you search Lee Everett, I'll be on there. I'm on Twitter as well, or X. I'm a bit of a stalker on Twitter. I don't really do much commenting. I just sort of browse. Yeah, it's a lot. Oh, we've got a question. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Does estate agents prefer cash over mortgage buyers? It's not up to us. It's not up to us. As an estate agent, we'd always prefer a cash in the bank buyer because of quickness. Generally. But mortgages, if a house has been on the market and only has one offer, and that happens to be from somebody who requires a mortgage, doesn't put us off. Or doesn't change the way we frame an offer. If we have two people offering on the same property and the figures exactly the same or similar, and one is cash and one is mortgage, then sometimes an owner will favour a cash offer because there's one less thing to go wrong. However, if that cash offer is from a house sale and then there's a mortgage further down the chain, you've got issues. But generally, a cash buyer, if they're genuinely cash, and an agent should always check that they have proof of funds, yeah, you would prefer a cash buyer, but it's not up to us. If a cash buyer came to me with an offer, how I would frame it to the seller would be something like this. Hi there, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Mr. and Mrs. Brown have offered £150,000 cash. We've seen proof of funds. They're ready to go. They've got their solicitors. We've seen the proof of funds. What do you think is their offer? And if it was a first-time buyer offering that, it would be framed exactly the same. But if there was two buyers going for it, a cash and a mortgage, we would say that with a cash buyer, there's one less hurdle to get over, which is a mortgage offer. But you still have a hurdle of if they get a home buyer's report and that surveyor downvalues the property. So there are pros and cons to both buyers, but generally, I mean, you might find some corporate agents prefer a mortgage buyer because they can then sell any potential mortgage leads and financial services. But I don't do that. If you need a mortgage broker, I can help, but it's not it's definitely not something which you should need an estate agent to help you out with. But yeah, hope that helps your question. But yeah, as long as you're a non-dependent buyer and you've proved that you are in that position with your mortgage agreement, proof of deposit, proof of funds, etc., an agent shouldn't treat you any different if you was cash as opposed to mortgage. The offer should be framed in a way that highlights your selling points as a buyer, and then hopefully that just the figure and your situation meets the timescales of their seller. And that's what my industry is all about. It's about matchmaking the right buyers with the right seller. And you can't detract away from that too much. You can't go chasing things that aren't there. If you can match the right buyer with the right seller, things will go smoothly. Everybody will be happy and it will go through nice. That's all I want as an estate agent. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday evening. If you haven't liked the stream, please do. Be muchly appreciated. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will try and see you again very, very soon. All right, guys, take